Okay, today's topic is going to be something that you already kind of know, but in a different format. The ones that you have learned prior to this is about writing descriptive essay because some of the devices that we use today is kind of resemble that, but how to do it in another format, which is a memoir and novel extracts. Okay, this is part one, right? So, part one is first person non-fiction writing, non-fiction as in factual essay, but we are using first person. And part two is gonna be informative accounts, meaning you are not gonna be putting yourself in that particular passage or article that you're gonna be writing. Okay, you totally omit yourself from the picture, but over here you put yourself, but there is a way for you to do it. And therefore, it is identify and analyze devices that fit for this particular format. And structure and style for it's actually for nonfiction description. We have two types, right? First person nonfiction writing is part one, and informative accounts for part two. And you can see the resemblance over here. They are both chronological, meaning to say, sorry, meaning to say you have the beginning part, you have the middle part, and you have the end part. The beginning, probably you just bought the pie ingredients, and then the middle part, you just baked it, and at the end, you ate the pie. And this is gonna be in organized manner where when the examiner mark your paper, they can see the exact transition from the beginning until the end. So both style should have a chronological order. And informative accounts, it should be factual. I'm not saying that first person nonfiction writing is not factual, but you know what? Actually, I forgot to put factual over here, but both need to be factual. And informative accounts, because people want to gain information from that particular article or report, you must not beat around the bush. Beat around the bush is not using figurative language. You must not use personification, you must not use metaphor, you must not use hyperbole, because the main purpose of writing an informative account is to inform people about this particular serious topic and not about giving your own personal experience in a very figurative manner. So, first person nonfiction writing, which is our topic for today, it needs to be in a chronological order, but you can put somehow imagery like sight, the tiny red ant climb up the broken twig. Okay, this is just example, but you know sight, right? Smell, or we use it olfactory, taste, gustatory, sound, auditory, and touch, tactile. So nonfiction writing, it must be in chronological and they must use imagery. Remember that until you die. So first person nonfiction writing, how to make people impress, mesmerize, amazed by your style of writing is to use unusual and different words, phrases, sentences. If you use usual and typical mainstream words, they just won't entertain. There's nothing different about your piece of writing from another person's piece of writing. It's better for me to just read a Wentis or Aaron writing, or I don't know, Dr. Jeffrey's writing, if it's just the same for everyone. You get what I mean. So what makes your writing stands out among the rest? And number two, it needs to be dramatic. The way that you express your emotions, the way that you express the entire situation should be in a dramatic manner. And atmospheric, the atmosphere is very important as well over here. So you need to create the right atmosphere for the story. So if the story from the beginning talks about how unsettling it is, you need to continue the progression from the beginning until the end about the unsettling atmosphere. So you need to ensure the consistency of that unsettling feelings for that particular atmosphere. Progression and cohesion over here is how consistent your writing is. If from the beginning you come out with these adjectives or hyphenated negative words, you cannot end it with a positive note, because from the beginning you talk about how bad it is, and then at the end you kind of change your mind. I don't think so. That's not how it works for descriptive essay. I mean, you can do that if it's a narrative essay. Yeah, for narrative essay you have all these dramatic plots of yours, but for descriptive essay or first person non-fiction writing, it needs to be consistent from the beginning until the end. If you don't like it, you better not like it until the end. So this is in your book, page 55. Example number 1 is the storm. So the storm over here is being described as terrible dust storm, and continue with boiling clouds, black and sulfurous yellow with heart varying shades of ochre red. And every description over here somehow equates to unsettling feelings. When you read it, you cannot stay put. You feel uneasy, you just feel like something is wrong. So you can see the progression of the storm, and the storm enters the scene and being the big guy over here. And by big guy, I'm not saying it in a positive note. Okay, so it's very consistent in a way. In your textbook as well, the questions that the book asks, why terrible storm is effective, is not actually terrible storm, but I try to make it very specific. It's actually why the descriptions in the particular passage are effective. So they are effective because the use of imagery and descriptions to give the impression of the cloud or the storm. So what is the impression of the storm with effects? So why I bold impression and effects? Because these two strands, you need to address them one by one. You cannot just answer it in a generalized manner. Okay, you address impression first. What is your impression of the storm? The impression of the storm is negative. For what reason? What effect does it give you? So the effect that the storm gives you is kinesthesia. Hello, new imagery. So the one that you have learned is these 5, right? Sight, olfactory, gustatory, auditory, and tactile. A new one is kinesthesia. It's the imagery that evokes physical bodily movement like a heartbeat or breath cycle. So kinesthesia over here is imagery for movement. So the movement of the storm from the very beginning until the end, it gives you the sense of understanding how it moves from one place to another. So the impression that we are talking about here, what is the impression? Negative, because the effect of movement or kinesthesia give you the impression of how bad the storm is because it approached in a very negative manner. And this is example number 2. And you also have example number 3. Try to do it yourself. At first, you need to find effective phrases, especially adjectives that the writer used. And then you can answer this question, why these descriptions or adjectives are effective, and what is the impression of those descriptions, and how is it effective, and the structure. I forgot to talk about the structure, but it's very chronological. And progression, the transition from one part of the story to another part of the story is very smooth. Okay? As you can see over here, it does not start with the approach of the storm and boom, the storm just hit you at the back. No. You can see the progression from one part of the story to another. Okay. And this one, the progression, you can see from buildings to people. Okay. From one part to another part, which is buildings to people. And then example number 3 is concrete to abstract, in the sense that it is about concept. Concrete concept is more tangible. It is very physical, as if you can see it, touch it. But abstract is something that you cannot see but feel it. Okay? So the first part of the passage talks about tangibility of the scene. Towards the end, it is very abstract, like extraordinary. This is expression. the way that you feel about that particular scene or situation. So, to recapitulate, identify and analyze devices, you have learned about imagery and some of the devices of how to make your writing in chronological order and factual in a way when you learn about news report and formal report. But now we are talking devices for first person nonfiction writing and informative accounts that we shall learn in our next class. Make sure your writing must be unusual, dramatic, atmospheric, in a chronological order using imagery. So even though they are descriptive writings, they are factual, but you can still use imagery and then give the effects so that the readers can feel the way that you feel. Thank you so much. Bye.